Richard, thank you so much for coming on the Winners Paradigm podcast for the second time around. It's been a couple of years since you came around, and what's crazy, and I was just telling my wife about this, was you were the first podcast that I ever went on as a guest. So that was funny. Now looking back on it, because I seen you post not too long ago the memory on Facebook, and hey, this was the episode we did, and I'm listening to it, and I'm like, oh God, this was terrible. And it's just because of the repetitions now of how many podcasts I went on. So it's funny that I noticed it. And two, it was like, hey, the early stuff isn't always going to be the best quality. So I applaud you, brother. Thank you for the friendship. Thank you for being one of my top people that helped me through my podcasting career. So thank you, brother.
Oh, and I love your podcast. If your numbers have gone up, is because I listen to every episode. So I take full responsibility if your numbers are going up.
I appreciate you, brother, because I'm starting to see that and people are loving it on Spotify, which was the inverse because I was focusing all on Apple. And it was funny is eventually I got more views on Spotify, and I was like, how did that happen?
Yeah, I mean, Spotify, 95% of people listen on iTunes, but a lot of people are listening on Spotify now. So it depends on the day. Some days you get more iTunes, sometimes you get more Spotify. Spotify is always changing though, so you have to really stay updated, especially if you're a producer. Something just came down the pike. Was it yesterday that they're no longer doing ambassador ads coming up
Oh,
in February?
uh-huh.
So you're not going to be able to monetize from Spotify.
And that was the big thing that everybody was liking them for.
So, like you said, you got to be everywhere. You can't just be one. Like I think we're on 34 different social media platforms. So if you're not everywhere, you're nowhere.
Let's talk about that, brother. You're everywhere, and then you're networking, and you're always pushing out these episodes. What's the process like for you? Number one, to be consistent in that, but also to be able to network and to be able to produce so many episodes like you do.
Well, one of my main mentor is Mr. John Lee Dumas, and he puts out an episode every day, and he's been doing it for 5 years. So, like yesterday, I recorded 6 episodes. That's 6 hour and a half long episodes, and I push out an episode a day. I have 300 episodes I haven't even released yet. They're still in there. So for me, this is all I do. I don't do anything else. So I have the time to do this. So that for me, I just try to put out a quality episode every day. Except for weekends, I take weekends off. But Monday through Friday, I'm putting out quality episodes every day.
I love that, brother. And that's something I'm migrating towards. I do about 2 to 3 a week, but I'm going to start doing pretty soon here. I'm getting everything ramped up for it, but I'm going to start doing daily episodes, 5 to 10 minutes, just really tapping into the mindset. Because it's funny is, and I bet you can attest to this, your audience speaks to you and what they want to hear. So a lot of times it's about us pushing our thoughts, our beliefs about, hey, this is what they want. And then they hear and they're like, no, that's exactly what I want. So for me, it was the business. It was showing all these tips. And then it came down to it. It's like, no, we want the mindset. We want to know this. We want to know about Richard coming on the podcast and what he's doing to stay locked in and to be the best that he can be. So it was funny because I kept going away from the one thing that the signs were telling me. And then all of a sudden it was exactly that. When I started giving it, everything started to change.
And if you're a podcast host, a producer, and you're not using Chat GPT-4, you're not using StreamYard, because StreamYard just dropped something new to where now you could just download, not the audio, but you can actually download everything that was said, put it into Chat GPT, and within 5 minutes, you have all your liner notes done.
Boom. That's why I was using it.
Yep, it just came out. It's a new beta test. So now you're able to just go in there, click it, put it into Chat GPT, have them rewrite your liner notes. 5 minutes, you're done.
Damn. Yeah, I've been using Cast Magic and I'm loving that one.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have the exact function. The bad part is it run into an issue like 2 days ago, to where it doesn't populate within a certain amount of time. So it was like 4 hours. It was the only day it was slow, 4 hours, and then uploaded to get the show notes and everything. So that's where the other day I was thinking, and I was like, man, I need a backup plan because I can't be
Well,
waiting
well,
on.
StreamYard, if you're paying for it already, it's included. It's new, so it's already included. You don't have to pay anymore.
There we go. I'm gonna start using that. See, you learn something new every day.
Yeah. And that's what I'm learning. I've got 1,100 episodes, but I'm still learning every single day how to get better. Because if you're not getting better, even if if you get into martial arts, if you're not getting better, there's no reason to roll if you're not going to get any better.
No, 100%. And I think too, uh, I created a podcast course to help people throughout that, and more of it's like a mindset course when it comes to your podcasting journey. And that was something I realized as well is it's completely something that you have to continually push forward to, but also understand what you're speaking about. Because I know a lot of people get burnout, and then that's where they're like, I don't want to go on a podcast. I don't want my podcast anymore, based off of talking about that one thing that they were so good at. So when someone tries to diversify, talk about a new product, talk about new ideas, beliefs, but they're kind of hitting that mental barrier, what do you recommend for them to start breaking through those pitfalls?
Well, I'm like you, and I just released a brand new course on January 1st. I teach people how to go from thought process to how to get over 1 million downloads like we have. It's called the 3 P's of podcasting: power, purpose, and profit. The reason why a lot of people pod fade or quit is because they don't have a purpose. Their podcast doesn't get power because there's no purpose behind it. And then you're paying for everything out of your pocket. So you're not profitable. And that's why people just quit. So that's why I teach everybody, make sure that you know why you're starting your podcast. Because when there's going to be times when you're going to look at your analytics and you're like, man, I just had, say, Steve Sims on and I got 7 downloads. And then you're all pissed off and aggravated because you don't have a big enough purpose. Because there's going to be those tough days where you're going to want to give up. So make sure your purpose is there before you start anything. Because my old podcast was called Success, Your Why Will Power Your How. So if you don't have a strong enough why, within 14, 15 episodes, you're going to quit. And that's what the average podcast lasts, 14 episodes.
I love that, brother. And it's funny the way shit works, number one. But two, it's also funny, especially when it comes to certain things like that, to where, you pick it up, you notice it as well. And that was something for me was going through the motions and then being like, hey, why isn't this shit working? Why isn't whatever it is, and I had to change that. And it's like when I connected with that avatar, when I talk about the man who got on his knees begging God for shit to change, where life changed, where I got out the Marine Corps and I was fucking struggling. That's where people were like, bro, that's what we want to hear. That's what happens into it. That's why you do all these things that are tough because it forces you to become better. And I was like, wow, it's crazy. It's like people will teach you more about yourself than you can learn on your own sometimes. And that was it for me. It's getting that dialed in and then saying continually that. But for me, the approach I took with you is doing the same thing, having a lot of episodes coming out, networking, continually getting in the rooms, the right people. And that's something you're continuously doing, brother. You mentioned earlier, if you're not getting better, you're not pushing yourself, you're not doing anything. So when it comes to the networking portion and leveraging those connections, what do you recommend for that podcaster that is struggling right now?
Make sure you're adding value. Make sure you're not going into groups and just spamming the shit out of them. It doesn't work. So what I did is I just got recognized yesterday as a top voice on LinkedIn for direct sales, and that's a big thing. But we have almost 28,000 connections on LinkedIn. But I don't ever go in and spam. I'm always trying to add value. I'm always looking at how I can help somebody else. And I think once people see you're just adding value to people, they start following you. So that's what I would recommend. If you're a podcaster, join 5 or 6 we're in a couple podcast groups together. And thank you, Zach Babcock, and I love you guys. But make sure that you're adding value. Look for ways to add value. Like I go every day. I would look at my Facebook page and I'm like, I look through it the first 2 hours and I'm like, how can I add value to somebody? How can I help somebody who's struggling with something? who's having a bad day that I can just direct message and say, hey, hope you're okay. If you need to talk, let's chat. So I think just adding value to people's lives, that's the best way to build a business, but also build generational relationships.
No, I love that. Especially because it forces you to take the time, and that's something I noticed as well. Like you mentioned, uh, going on and commenting on people's stuff, and I heard that is one of my buddies said it's called social media, so you got to be social on the media for a fucking reason. And that was something I wasn't doing, and it was funny. Is like I created more relationships as well as getting people to come on my show by just going to their post and then saying a thoughtful comment or taking that minute. And I'm like, hey man, that really resonated with me. Blah blah blah. Thank you for being a badass. Thank you for talking about this vulnerability that we struggled as men. And then all of a sudden, like it generated conversations just because it took the time to show that I actually care about what they're putting out there, which ultimately made me better because then I noticed like what I'm putting out there and how I'm going to help somebody else. So I love that you mentioned that because that's something that I recently went through. And I realized for myself was, hey, when we're taking these steps, when we're doing all these things, especially like in business, it's all in congruence. And that's something, with you is you don't just say one thing, you do another. Everything that you do is in alignment with, the best version of yourself, being a better man, because that's your main focus. That's your calling is to continually get better, like you said. So when we're talking about the congruence portion and the one way we do everything is or the one way we do one thing is everything. What do you recommend when it comes to the foundational principle of just staying consistent with being the best you can be, brother?
Well, I learned from the best. Like some of my mentors are John Lee Dumas, Ed Milet, Steve D. Sims, and I take what's working, and Gary Vaynerchuk, obviously, my friend Gary. I take what's working, and then I put it into my own little world. I meld it up, and then I use it like that once I had you on my show, I send out handwritten thank you notes just to say, hey, bro, I appreciate you. I thank you. Thank you for being in my inner circle. And it makes a big difference. But I make sure, like you said, you have to be consistent in everything that you do. And for my words for 2023 were intention and attention. My words for 2024 are intention, attention, and retention. Because there's no good thing, getting you into my circle and then you just leave. So I want to make sure I retain all my friends. I don't have followers, I have friends. So
That is
those are my words for the year are just intention. Everything I do is intentional. I don't do anything by accident. If it's not, and I tell everybody, my things are God, family, friends, and business. If it's not in those four things, I'm not doing it. I don't have time for it. So if you
well,
live intentional, then you're going to hit your goals. If you wake up every day with intention and go to bed with intention.
I love that, brother, and that was something I was thinking about, the other day, was just the simplicity we can keep it and how well it makes it for us, and I don't know if that's the military in us, whatever it is, but it's like we do better when it's just simple, and it's just sticking to that simple routine and doing whatever, and it was funny because last night I'm eating chicken with the family, and I'm going back to it, I'm weighing my food, and my mother-in-law is like, "Oh, you weigh your food, blah, 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 how does this work?" And I'm talking about it, and she's like, "How much you gonna do?" I'm like, 12 ounces of chicken. She's looking at me. I'm like, "This is a lot. I know, but hey, you do what you got to do." I didn't get to eat the chicken earlier in the day, and it was just the fact of continually doing it. But two, certain people don't know about those things. Of the habit doing those things, and then you start doing it, and all of a sudden you see, the difference it makes by the energy that you consume, by the energy that you come up with, by the thoughts, the actions, by just you sticking to the principles of what's important to you, what's going to get you to that next level. So I appreciate that note, brother, because that was
Yeah,
something
but
I
even
found.
in the military, even we knew that Monday through Friday, no matter how banged up we got the night before, 5 a.m. you're doing PT, whether you're drunk, you're throwing up, you have that, and then you knew you had formation at 7 o'clock. You knew, you had a schedule. And I think if you're going to be successful, you need to live by a schedule. And I live by Calendly. That's my life. And if you're not ruling your calendar is ruling you.
Oh, 100%. And I love that. And that was something for me, especially with the kids, because the wife's going through a medical journey. So it's taking care of her, taking care of the kids. I had to get more intentional because I realized for me, I'd either crash out or I would be fucking around on my phone throughout the day being like, "Oh, I don't have anything to do." And then, I don't need to do this. So it's funny now, it's like just the bits and pieces of understanding of, hey, what you can get done to where if it's a course, you can be cleaning, doing the course. You can break it down. You can go for a walk. And also being intentional with what we take in. So for me, like I only listen to a few podcasts. Yours is one of them. And it's just because I need to take in the right information and I know exactly who to get it from because again, everything we need is within us. It just takes that activation. But sometimes, a lot of people what they struggle with as well, and I bet you can attest to it, brother, is they take in too much information and then they don't take any action. So that's one of the things for me is I don't do is take in a lot of information anymore because I want to be more on the action side of the house. Because I know for me, if I be that content zombie, then I become the zombie, and then I don't want to do shit.
Well, and I think there's a difference. I was talking about this yesterday on the show that when you flip your mind from being a producer to be a consumer, I mean, from being a consumer to being a producer, that's when your whole mindset shifts because, you get paid to produce, you pay to consume.
Right.
So which one you want to pay or do you want to get paid? So what I did is I deleted a lot of my social media or I started new ones. And I just like what my friend Russell Brunson talks about, I started my top 100. So now on my emails, everything is I'm only following my top 100. So even if I'm going to spend 15, 20 minutes on Instagram or whatever, I'm only looking at the top 100. And I'm not searching cat videos for an hour and a half. And if I
Ooh.
am searching cat videos, I want to see why they're successful, why they're making so much money, why they're getting the views, what headlines are they using, and what hashtags are they using.
You know what's funny is you said cat videos. There was one night where it was just a fucking busy day all over the place. And then my daughter had the remote. She's learning how to put like her own shows on. So she's like, I want to watch the kitties. So watching like these midget cats or some shit. And they're like doing this thing and they have like millions of videos. And then watching this fucking stupid monkey feed himself and put on the hats and shit like that. And I'm like literally sitting there and my 2-year-old thought it was the funniest shit on the planet. Like just fucking rolling on the ground. And I'm like, people really watch this shit. Like it's funny. It's like you don't think about it. You're like, oh, someone won't listen to me. They won't listen to this, but that right person will. In this case, the right person was my 2-year-old watching these monkey and kitty videos, and that's probably why they're getting a lot of views. Was those things. So I love that you said that, brother, because it's definitely shows when we're connecting with the audience. To have that bigger picture, to always look at it, and that's something I've been with too. Is that and the speed understanding, okay, I'm talking to these people, but then if anybody comes that aligns to that message, I'm getting on the show like that. So had somebody reach out, hey, I want to go on the show. Cool. Here's the link. Let's set it up. Let's move on. Kind of like how me and you set it up. Hey, boom, set it up, moved forward. And that's one of the things with you as well. When it comes to it, you take massive action in a short manner. And that's why you're always forcing that growth. So if someone's struggling with taking that massive action, we already talked about the consistency portion. What do you tell that person who's struggling with the action side of the house?
Start saying no. Start saying no to a lot of shit. Like I said, if for me, if it's not God, family, friends, and business, I don't do it. So
Uh-huh.
for me, if it's not going to get me to where my goal is, I'm not going to do it. And I think, uh, and I had one of my friends. He actually sets up all the concerts and the meetings for Gary Vee and Tony Robbins. And I asked him on the show, I'm like, Why do you guys always pack out the place? He says, because Gary and Tony know that only 3% of the people that go there are actually going to act upon it. So they're going to
Oh,
see the same 97% next time because only 3% acted upon it. So if you want to be successful, act upon, if you're taking a course, do what the course says. Don't just take another course. Because some people just read a book and then they're going to get the next book. And then they're going to get the next book. And they haven't acted upon the first book. So you're just consuming. You're not actually producing what you're being taught. You know what I mean?
no, that is 100% perfect, and, I went through that last year. I went to that Aspire tour, and one of the speakers, Eddie Wilson, sold 80 business or around up for about over 1.2 billion, and, I literally after that, I hit up all the speakers, scheduling conflicts. He was like, "Yeah, let's set this up." Interviewed him, and it was funny because that was exactly what we talked about, is, what's the experience like for him, especially when he goes on stage and then people were asking him to go on a podcast and they're talking about the same things he was talking about. So it was funny because I just took that time and I knew that he would want to share that story. So got him on the podcast and it was a great episode. And that was one of the first for me where it was just being intentional with that, understanding, hey, this is how we leverage it. This is how we leverage who we are. So I appreciate you, brother, for coming on today. It's been an immense honor, brother, to catch up with you. Any last words for that man who's struggling right now, brother?
Well, like I say on my podcast every day, and I don't have my T-shirt on today, but it's I took this from Joel Osteen that every day we wake up, we get the choice to be a victor or a victim. So it's up to you today to be the victim of your past or the victor of your future and your present. So I just wanted to put that out.
Oh, that is good. And everybody go give my man Richard a follow at Vertical Momentum. Thank you again, brother. It was immense honor. I know definitely we'll do this again.
I love you, brother. Have an amazing weekend. Feel better and kiss the babies.
We'll do, brother. You and the family do better as well.